Saturday. This is the Brown Girls Code Future Scholarship Workshop 2021 edition. You guys might know me, I'm Nima, and I'm one of your tech instructors for Brown Girls Code and your host for today. And we have a fun educational workshop for you guys today. So topic of discussion today is scholarships. And since you all are middle school and high schoolers, this is a perfect time to learn about scholarships, what they are, why they are helpful, and how to apply. So we have a wonderful speaker today joining us. It's Annette Sanchez. She is a first-gen student studying biology at UCLA. She loves to play the violin, and like some of you guys, she is currently learning Python. So I'm going to stop my PowerPoint because Annette is going to go over some scholarship information, and she's here to answer all of your questions. So let me finish sharing now. I don't even know why I shared in the first place. Here we go. Okay, Annette, you can go ahead and introduce yourself further, and then you have the floor.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Annette Sanchez, and like Rima said, a first-gen bio student at UCLA. I'm a fourth year, and I've never transferred to a different college, and I went straight from high school to a four-year university. And so I'm just going to share my screen now so you guys can see the presentation. And if you cannot see it, please tell me. All right. Does everybody see my Google Slides?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. So I'm just going to present. If you have a paper and pen, that is a really good idea. When I was going through high school and middle school, we didn't really have these kinds of presentations. And I know friends who never went to college because they were unsure how to pay for college. It's a really big stressor, especially how some public schools can go up to $30,000 in just tuition. And so it's really, really, really good to be financially literate and know what resources are available to you. So here's the presentation: scholarships and financial aid. And there's 4 different types of financial aid. You will have scholarships, which are merit-based and need-based, grants, which are also need-based, loans, and work study. And so grants and scholarships are like free money that you don't have to pay back. And then work study is like having an on-campus job. That could be working at the Jamba Juice on campus, or you got a job cleaning the glassware in a lab. And then you have federal loans, which you would take out at a fixed low interest rate, and you would pay it back after graduation. And so here we go. Scholarships are free money. They are need-based and merit-based. And what need-based means is that it's based on your family income or your own income, that if you're considered emancipated. And the way the college determines if they want to give you a need-based scholarship is they take your family income that you make and they compare it to how much it costs to attend that college. And if there's a really big difference, they will give you a scholarship based on how big that difference is. And then you have merit-based scholarships, which are based on academic performance or performance in extracurricular or volunteer experience. And you can apply at many different websites. These are just some examples. You have the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, scholarships.com, FastWeb, Black Scholarships, Niche. And on a lot of these websites, some of the scholarships are no essay. All you have to do is click apply, and you enter this raffle to win like $5,000, $500, $200. So you can get like a textbook, or you can pay the whole semester off. It's really great. And is everyone hearing me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. And so this is the other side. There's many, many more websites than the ones I've listed right here. And later on in the presentation, I am going to show FastWeb and how it looks and how you can apply to scholarships. And I've adjusted my profile to be a senior in high school who's applying for their first time as a freshman in college. And so there's 2 main types of grants. You have the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. And this grant can go up to $6,000. And that's the cutoff, that's the max you can get. And this is for students who are considered to be in financial need. and you must apply for this one every year. Usually the priority deadline is in March 1st, March 2nd. It's usually the same 2 days, and it opens up in October. It's always in October, and the deadline's always in March for the priority deadline. And then so the final cutoff deadline for the FAFSA is midnight Central Time, June 30th. That should say 2021, I apologize. And then you can find this at studentaid.gov. And I know that Georgia has their own state financial aid application, which is the GSFAPPS. And that's for seniors who need to complete this before graduating high school. And once this is completed, the application is good for 10 years after high school or the equivalent time the student is eligible to receive the Hope or a Zell Miller Scholarship. And this can be found at gafutures.org. And so I've just put pictures of when you Google it that you should look at. These are the icons you should look for, because for the federal student aid one, there is a second link. That is the wrong link. If it doesn't look like that, you're at the wrong website and you want to get out. All right. So do you need to pay back grants or scholarship? Like I said, it's meant to be free money, that it's non-repayable. However, scholarships can be revoked, and some organizations will ask for their money back if you withdraw, meaning you drop out for any reason. That could have been a family emergency, or you just felt like college isn't for you and you would be happier doing something else, which is also fine. And this is before you get your degree. Scholarships will take their money back, and sometimes they will even ask you to pay back what you used, especially if it's a merit-based scholarships and they see that your grades are falling also. And then every college is different. Depending on the college you go to, they may ask for it, they may not. And if you withdraw or drop out and accepted grants like the Pell Grant, you might have to pay back half of everything you accepted on top of loans that you already have to pay back. So let's say I was in my second year of college and I took out $6,000 in loans. And up to this point, I would have accepted $12,000 in Pell Grant, since $6,000 is the max. And let's say I decided that college isn't for me, so I decided to drop out my second year. The college would ask for my $6,000 in loans, and then half of the $12,000 that I accepted, so another $6,000. So in total, I would have to pay back $10,000. Why are scholarships so helpful? It's free money. College is not free. It can be very expensive at times. You have to pay for books, housing, food, doctor. And if you have dependents, you have to take care of your dependents and make sure that they're doing fine and they have everything they need. Your dependents could be children you may have in the future while you're in college or as you're enrolling into college. It could be your grandparents who they can't take care of themselves, so they're also considered dependents. And life can throw many things at you while you're in college. And it's just really nice to have one less stressor when you're already stressed out about deadlines, finals, and just a bunch of other things. And then and when you're going through this, college is hard. College is going to be hard. It is not easy. It is very challenging. But you have to go through this and you need to motivate yourself, because this is an investment for the future. You're going to go through and you're going to be, you're going to see how academically rigorous it can be. It's going to push you, but you need to stay motivated and you need to say, I'm doing this for me. And this is going to help me out in the long run. And how can you apply for scholarships? Oh, and I will share my screen and show you. And this is where we will go on to FastWeb. And I'm going to show you which link to click on Google. Usually there's an ad that pops up here that also says FastWeb. It didn't show up now, but that's something to look out for because that's the wrong website. So FastWeb, you want to click this link. And when you create an account, you would go to sign up. And what it would do is it's going to ask for your year when you were born, your email address. It's just like creating an email. Excuse me. And you would put if you're a student or a parent of a student. And when you do create your account, what it will ask you is just questions about what you like, your hobbies, because it will adjust scholarships to what you like. So if you like writing poetry, it's going to bring up some poetry scholarships. If you like sports, it's going to bring up sports scholarships. And if you're into STEM, it's going to bring up some really, really cool STEM scholarships. And so when you open it up and when you create your account, it shows you that right now I have 0 new matches since I've already checked this today, but usually it'll have a number here. And then this is your potential value. So your potential value is all the scholarships that they've listed for you. And they've added it all up, and this is the potential amount of money that you can get. So let's say I applied to all of them. I have the potential of getting 500,000 back if I win. And then these are your total matches. So I have 78 scholarships. So from 78 scholarships, this is how much I can get. And when you scroll down, you can see all the scholarships that they list. It tells you how much you're going to get back, and it tells you the deadline. So this is a sweepstakes one. The first one is for 500. That could be 2 or 3 textbooks, easy. And the deadline is March 31st. And if you want to see details, you can click the details or click the name, whichever one is fine. And you can choose to apply or just flag it if you're interested or not. And you can put if you applied so you don't apply to it again. And then it tells you a description of what it is. And this one is just like a raffle. You would send the link to your friend, kind of the way you do on social media, where it's like share your link and you get a free t-shirt or something. This is the same thing, except you're going to get $500 if you enter. And so you would just hit apply now, and that's it. So it's really, really easy. A lot of these scholarships aren't essays that you have to write 6 pages. Some of these organizations are just throwing out free money. It's $600 just for clicking apply. And they're really just like that. There are ones that you will have to do a paper. Excuse me, I clicked the wrong button. So there are ones that you will have to do a paper, but there are many, many more that you just have to click apply. It's really, really easy. And this used to stress me out when I was going through it because I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to apply. And so I really like FastWebs, and scholarships.com is also really good, which is this one right here. Scholarships.com has a similar layout to FastWeb and Niche. It looks different, but it has a lot of the same things. And then at the Hispanic Scholarship Fund and the Black Scholarship Fund, you will find a lot more grants and scholarships specifically for Hispanic or Black students with regard to your cultural upbringing or any challenges you might face. And it's your email, and you want to get used to checking it every single day. Because when you get into college, you're going to notice that you're getting 10 emails a day, and you have to go through all of them. And sometimes you're not going to hear anything from your scholarship organizations that you apply to. Sometimes you're going to get a check, and if you don't know what a check looks like, it's right here. Or they'll send you an email like, oh, you won. Thank you for applying to blah, blah, blah. And if you still don't hear anything, and it's been months and you're already entering your first day of freshman year and you don't know what's happening, when you get to college, you're going to see that the college got a call from the organization and they said, oh, this student won, this is how much money they're getting. And so the college is going to tell you as soon as you enroll. And that's how you know. But usually you just have to be really patient and just don't stress out as much as you can. Try and find something that's relaxing. So you can do well in the class. Can I pay my college tuition with just scholarships? Yes, you can. As you saw in my FastWeb, there's a potential of getting $500,000, and that's more than enough. I go to UCLA, and tuition for me just to attend the college is 15,000. So I could go to that college many, many more times with if I won those $500,000. And then with room and board, it's another 15,000. So in total, if I was living in the dorms, I would be paying 30,000. So if I only apply for scholarships, I could still afford all that and then some. And that applies if you're ineligible for federal aid or you missed a deadline, you're still eligible for many, many, many scholarships that are merit-based. And if you missed a deadline for a scholarship, there's no worries. There's 1,000 more you can apply to the next day. There's always, always, always going to be scholarships. And this is what an award letter looks like. And so what an award letter is when you enroll into college or you pick the college that you're going to go to, you're going to get a paper that looks like this. It's not going to look exactly like this. It's not going to be blue. It's not going to be categorized as neatly as they did for us. But what it's going to show is going to show the total amount of aid that you're receiving. So this person is getting 40,000 almost in federal aid and scholarships. And it tells you what scholarship they got. So they got a faculty scholarship for a total of 31,000. And we're not going to focus on these two columns just for now. I will explain what they mean though. And then the Pell Grant, they only received, we'll just round it up to 3,000. And so they also got one more grant for 800. They also took out these total loans of 3,500 and 2,000. And so the college that they're attending is going to have a fall semester and a spring semester. I go to UCLA where we have the quarter system. And the quarter system is that we have, it's like a trimester. And so it's going to have fall, winter, and spring. And the reason why you have two columns here, they're having a semester system. But what these numbers mean is that they're dividing the total amount of scholarship money that they got, the grants, and they're dividing it between the semesters. So if you got 40,000 in total financial aid, you're gonna get, you're gonna get 20,000 fall, 20,000 spring. And if you see that there's still money that you have to pay out of pocket, you can choose to increase the amount of loans you're going to take. If the deadline to pay is coming up soon, you can work out a payment plan with the university to see if you can get an extension on your payment because you're waiting on scholarship money, or a different payment plan that's need-based if you need to get a job and say, I'm currently trying to pay this out of pocket. I would really appreciate if I can get an extension on the due date of my payment because I'm going to get paid in like 2 weeks, something like that. And so loans and work study. There's two main types of loans you can get when you're applying for college. There's federal and then there's private loans. Private loans are the ones you can go to the bank for, or different organizations like Sallie Mae. When you go to college, you might start receiving a lot of mail from these private loan organizations. And for the federal loans, when you apply to federal loans, you will apply to them through the FAFSA application. When you fill out your FAFSA, it's going to ask you your family's financial history from, it's going to ask you your family's financial history, and you're going to have a question towards the end that's going to ask whether or not you would like to be considered for federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans. And that's how you would apply for them. And you will learn what loans are being offered to you in your award letter from the college. And it would look like this. It would say federal direct subsidized loan and federal direct unsubsidized loan if you chose to take it out. And so direct subsidized loans are loans you would take out that do have interest like most other loans, but the interest on the payment while you're in college will be paid off by the government. And when you read this anywhere else, it will say the interest on these payments, the accrued interest on these payments is paid off by the government. And accrued just means the interest that goes up. And direct unsubsidized loans I put bad because these are the ones that you want to refrain from taking. Direct unsubsidized loans are loans that if you take it out, as soon as you take it out, the the interest on the loan and the loan amount is going to increase as soon as you take it out. So if I took out an unsubsidized loan my freshman year of 3,000, if I didn't pay any of it during my time in school, when I graduate, it's not going to be 3,000 anymore. It's going to be a lot bigger than 3,000. If I took out a direct subsidized loan of 3,000 my freshman year, when I graduate, it will still be 3,000. But as soon as I graduate, I will have a 6-month deferment period where the government is letting me, those 6 months is the government giving you time to find a job that's stable enough where you can afford to pay off those loans. And so that's why if you need to take out loans, you want to go for the subsidized loans and you want to refrain from the unsubsidized loans as much as possible. But sometimes life does happen. There could be a family emergency and you need to take out a loan and the only thing available to you is an unsubsidized loan. And so you may need to take one out. And unfortunately, that's life sometimes. But what if you took out a bigger loan than you needed? You can always cancel a portion of the loan or cancel the loan entirely. So if I had a family emergency and I took out an unsubsidized loan of 6,000 and I learned that I really only needed 5,000, I can speak to the financial aid department at my college, or I can call them to set up an appointment to say, I would really appreciate if I could set up an appointment to cancel a portion of my loan. I took out more than I needed, and they can work out a contract with you. Or you can cancel the loan entirely and take out a different loan from a different organization. And the same thing, what if I need to take out more loans? So let's say in your award letter, you received 4,000 in subsidized, and this person received 2,000 in unsubsidized. And let's say I still needed to pay 5,000 out of pocket. Where am I going to get 5,000? Just like that. The only way you can do it if you don't have scholarship money is if you go speak to the financial aid department and you would ask them, I have a $5,000 difference in my cost of attendance, and I would really appreciate if you could help me find a loan that would cover this, or you would ask if you can apply for work study. And what work study is an on-campus job. There are limits to the hours you can work per week, and that's a good thing. And there's also a limit to your work study award. And what your work study award is that when you go on your award letter, it will just have another number. It will usually say 2,000. That's what it looks like for me at UCLA. So that means that while I'm working a work study position, I will only be allowed to make 2,000. But what if I need more than 2,000? You would again go speak to the financial aid department and say, I would really appreciate if I can have, or if you would let me have a larger work study award, or allow me to work more hours, as I am still in financial need, and it would be a financial hardship if I'm no longer allowed to work on campus. And so it's an on-campus job. You typically work less hours per week than an average part-time job. And this is a good thing, because when you work a part-time job, it's usually either 20 hours or more, or you're working 30 hours or less. And usually it's very, very tiring, and your bosses do not understand how hard it is going to college as a full-time student. Even a part-time student is difficult when you're working. And there is a statistic that shows students who have to work while attending college full-time do not tend to perform as well as students who don't need to work while attending school. And work study could be anything. It could be you spoke to a professor and they said, oh, I have a position in my lab of cleaning glassware. And you can see this woman right here. What she's doing is she's pipetting liquid, and she's transferring them probably into a centrifuge, or she's just moving liquid between these flasks. And here is most likely the professor doing something on the side. And this could also be work study. You're working at the Jamba Juice on campus, you're making smoothies. And this is also completely fine. And when you're going into college, you probably won't have any work experience. So work study is a really, really good opportunity to get that work experience. So maybe you want to study business. You would speak to your business professor and see if they have any positions available, or you would go to the financial aid department again and ask if they have any positions available. For me, at UCLA, I can speak to the financial aid department, or when I log into my UCLA website, and my UCLA website is where I check my grades. There's a tab that lets me see all of the work study job postings available, and I can choose to apply. And the way I would do it is I email the professor or the department who's in charge of that work study position. Hello, I am interested in the position. I would really appreciate the opportunity to interview for this position. And usually you would work 15 hours or less for a work study position. And that is ideal for a full-time student because you want to treat going to college like a full-time job. If you want to succeed in college and have good grades, you want to keep a rule that for every hour you're in class, you want to study 4 hours outside of class. And that does not include doing your homework. So if it took you 2 hours to do your homework and you were maybe doing calculus, it really shouldn't take 2 hours to do your homework. That means that you're struggling, which is why you need to study. And so this is another example of a work study position. At UCLA, what they have is this position called access control. And what they are basically security guards. And this is a really, really easy position if you get the opportunity. It's all you do is just stand around and you just take a look at people's IDs, and that's it. And if they don't have an ID, you say, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I can't let you in the building. Have a nice day. And that's it. Is there a limit to the amount of scholarships you can get? No, you can get all the scholarship money that is offered to you. Like we saw on the FastWeb, there's a potential 500,000. If I won those 500,000, when I go to college, it's going to show on my award letter that I had 500,000 in award scholarship money. And what the college will do is that they will adjust the amount of loans that they offer me because I basically don't need them. So they'll just remove the loans offered and you just don't have to take any money. College is free. You don't have to worry about paying anything back, and life is good. And this is a good plan. You want to set aside an hour a day and apply for as many scholarships as you can. Pick 2 or 3 that you want to submit every week. And you want to try and find something you like too, something you're interested in. That way you put in a little more effort into what you're writing. And so these are some funny little pictures. You could be raking it in, like this wonderful young woman right here. Or you could be this Cheeto guy from Toy Story 2, just sitting on the couch or sleeping. Any questions from the audience about anything? If I was unclear.
No questions, guys? Nobody has a question?
I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so I can see everybody.
I hear that it's hard to apply for FAFSA. Is it really that difficult? Like long and
Are you saying like is the application process difficult?
yes.
What makes applying for FAFSA difficult is some of the questions they ask are kind of difficult to understand. And I can show you what I mean. I'm just going to share my screen again to see. So it's just the wording that they ask, that they use. It's not difficult applying for FAFSA. It is stressful. because applying for anything is stressful. Even if you're going to a job, you fill out the job application, it's stressful. I'm not gonna lie, but it's not very difficult really. And so this is the website you want to, I don't know if you guys saw the link I clicked. So you want to go for this one, and you want to make sure right here it says studentaid.gov, and you will click apply for financial aid FAFSA. So this is what it looks like when it loads. And this is also the same website that you would fill out a master promissory note. And I realized that I forgot to go over that in my presentation. A master promissory note is when you take out a loan, it's just a contract saying, I promise to pay back my loans. And you would go to this website also to fill that out. And it would be here in manage loans. And so you would go to this website. If you are going in as a freshman, you would go here where it says new to FAFSA process. And it would take you to a different tab. And it would look like this. It's just loading. While that loads, once you go into college and you already submit your FAFSA, you would just click this one, returning user, and you would log in, and you can choose to use like the info from the year before. And what that means is that your name, your address will already be recorded in the system. So you don't have to type it in again because it is a little time consuming. I usually like to set aside 2 hours to fill it out. That's just me. It doesn't take 2 hours to fill it out. It probably takes only 30 minutes or 15 minutes. But I set aside 2 hours to make sure everything looks perfect because this is a very important application. And I think it's just the stress of filling it out. That's what makes it difficult and makes people kind of want to put it off. I don't know why I can't see the other link. Can I see if I make it? There we go. And so this is what it looks like. You would put I'm a student, and then it would look like this. And your FAFSA student ID, you would create this ID, and the FSA ID password would be your login for, you can choose to make it your login for this website, or where is it? Now right here, you would put forgot username, forgot password, or right here where it says don't have a FAFSA ID, you create one. And when you create one of these, you also want to create one for your guardian, whether that's your parents or your grandparents. Anybody who's a legal guardian would need to fill out this paper along with you if you are considered a dependent. And so you would create one, and it would just take you back to the FSA website. And then it's just like creating same thing, like if you're creating an email for this website, everything is completely free. Everything that I said to sign up for, you do not have to pay for. If it's asking you for money, you probably clicked the wrong website, but all of it is completely free. Nothing should ask you for money when you're applying for this. And I say that because there are a lot of scammer websites. So when you are filling out these applications, you really want to be very careful. And so once you create your FAFSA ID, you're going to go ahead and type it in here, type it in here. You're going to hit next. And then it's going to ask you, what's your name? What's your birthday? What high school do you go to? What college do you plan on attending? And if you are a senior in high school and you're enrolling into your freshman year of college in California, I'm from California. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And I went to Cabrillo High School in Long Beach. And when I filled out the FAFSA, it was before I had known what colleges I got accepted into and which college I wanted to attend. So if that's the same case for you when you're applying for FAFSA for your freshman year of college, you're going to get to a screen that says, what college do you plan on attending? And it's going to look like a drop-down menu, like ad, kind of like if you're on Spotify. Do you guys know Spotify? Or on YouTube and you want to add a song to your playlist? It's going to look like that. You're just going to put plus, and you're going to type in the name of the school, and it's going to pop up the name of the school right around here. You're just going to click it, and that's it. So let's say I applied to 8 different schools, and I still don't know which one I want to go to, and you got accepted into all of the 8 schools. You're going to put all the 8 schools as the schools that you plan on attending. And that's because you don't know which ones you're getting accepted into. And you want to put all 8 schools, because that way FAFSA will send your information to all the colleges that you apply to. And those colleges will have the opportunity to see your financial situation. And the colleges also have the power to give you a scholarship or a grant if they see that you're doing really well in school, or they see that you're in financial need as a student. And so they will give you an extra scholarship if they see that your FAFSA or any other grant that you receive is not going to cover expenses that you might have. So that's why it's important to list all the colleges that you are attending when you fill out the FAFSA for the first time. When you go into your second year of college, if you don't plan on transferring, you just list the school you're attending. So if you went to Georgia State, you would put Georgia State. If you decide that you want to transfer to UCLA, you would look for UCLA, and you could also put that you're transferring to UCLA, and there should be another question on the FAFSA for it. And they also did make a new FAFSA. I think last year they changed the format a bit, but it's only like 1 or 2 questions that they changed. So it's not like a big difference. Everything is the same. You do need your parents' tax information in front of you when you are filling it out. So we're in 2021. So if you applied, or you would have applied for this in 2019, sorry, 2020. Sorry, guys. You would have applied for this in 2020. So you would have been using your parents' tax information from 2019, I believe. And you always want to use the tax info from the year before. It's never the tax info from this year, because your parents would not have done their taxes for that year by the time you fill out the FAFSA. Any other questions? I know that was really detailed.
No more questions, guys? Cool. Okay, let's move on. Let me share my screen. Thank you, Annette. That was super helpful. I hope you guys were taking notes.
Thank you.
Here, let's see. Oh, that's screen 1. How funny. Okay. Let's move on. Next thing we are going to go into is the scholarship essay. And most scholarships require an essay to be submitted with the application. And the essay's goal is to convince the selection board that you are the right person to receive the scholarship. And what's fun about the essay is that you can and should make it personal. This should show your unique voice and your tone and your experiences. And it gives the reader like an insight to your life, apart from grades and GPA. So the essay is a big deciding factor. The panel doesn't know everybody, and the only thing they really know is your application form and the essay. So it's an important piece. So Annette, do you want to describe your experience of filling out the form and writing your essay? I don't know why I keep sharing my screen, but I made it, so I shared it. Let me stop sharing, and I'll let you kind of go into your experience. And if you have any tips for writing an essay, you're welcome.
And so yeah, essay scholarships are very, very common. They have to be like 80% of all scholarships out there, but that doesn't mean that it has to be boring. So you always want to find a scholarship that you're interested in. So if you see that it's a essay topic on, I don't know, construction is not for me. I am not good um, creatively, like visualizing something I want to build. It's not my strength, so I would most likely not apply to a scholarship like that. I would apply to something that's, if a scholarship was asking about my life or a story, a narrative, something something that I'm interested in, something that I know I'm going to do well. So when you're applying for scholarships, it's really, really good to know your strengths and your weaknesses when applying, because it will only make your work look better. And so I'm going to share my screen again. There we go. And so this is very important when you're applying for scholarships. You want to find the time. For me as a college student, I attend full-time class. I take 15 to 19 units every quarter. And so that's only 3 to 4 classes every quarter. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you start attending lecture and you see the up to your senior year of college. So you don't want to memorize the information, you want to learn it. And you, in order to do that, you need to find the time. You want to set up a little day or a little time each week that you can dedicate to applying or finishing up an application or essay, and it helps to stay organized. You want to time yourself in everything you do. So if you're working, I worked 20 hours a week to 30 sometimes. So you really want to be really well on time management. You want to have a planner if you can, and draw out your week. Draw out when you have class, when you work, when you sleep, when you're studying and doing homework, because it's all very important. And sleep is also very important as a college student. Most freshmen tend to think they can pull all-nighters, but it does catch up to you. You will get very tired very fast, and you want to avoid burnout. And burnout is you're just very, very tired, and you will know when you burnt out because you can't focus anymore in class. But you really want to take care of yourself as a college student. If you need to work, go to school, keep your grades up, but time management is very, very important. And if you apply for scholarships and you win your scholarships and you make sure to set a time this every week, set a time to fill out scholarships, you might not even have to work at all. So that's a plus. And like I said before, being a full-time student is like having a job. So if you can avoid having another job on top of that, it's really, really great, which is why I want to emphasize the importance of scholarships and time management and how it all works together. And you don't want to be this little bunny from Alice in Wonderland. He's always got really bad anxiety and he's like, I'm late, the time is ticking. You don't want to be that little rabbit. You want to apply for a scholarship, you want to get your money, you want to be relaxed and focused on school. And so, like I said before, you want to apply ones that you think are interesting, because sometimes you will feel kind of, you will think it's kind of boring that you have to write a paper every week. And it's not even a big paper. It's like a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. The max I've ever written is 5 pages, and that was double spaced. So really it was only 2.5 pages. And so these are some common essay topics that I've come across. Pardon me. So you have general topics, which is role models. They really like to ask questions about who's a role model in your life. And this could be anybody. This could be your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your older brother or sister. Maybe it was a celebrity who's doing a lot of philanthropy, and you think that's really inspiring, and you want to be like that too. You want to talk about what makes them so important. You want to talk about how their persona has influenced who you are today and who you will become in the future. And what choices are you going to make sure that you become the person you want to be in the future. And so those are some very important details you want to take into consideration when you're writing about scholarship essays that are talking about potential role models. Another topic is, why are you choosing to be a woman in STEAM or STEM? You will see STEAM, you will see STEM, it means the same thing. Everybody's trying to transition to STEAM, but I've been noticing that a lot of scholarships still use the STEM acronym, but the arts are very important, so we don't want to forget them. But you want to look out for these two acronyms, they're the same thing. And so they want to know why you're choosing to be a woman in STEM. Maybe it was a role model. Maybe you saw a really cool movie and they want to know what about that movie made you so interested in science. Maybe it was the first time you got to use a computer and you were fascinated by how it worked, how you're able to see a screen and it has a display and you can see it very clearly, or you can type something on the keyboard and it does it very quickly. What science is going behind that? And after you were inspired, they want to know what you did to make sure that you were on the right track to becoming a woman in STEM. And they want to know what you plan on doing with your STEM career, whether that's in biology. So me as a biologist, I've gotten a chance to do a lot of research in conservation. And what that means is we're doing a lot of restoration, like planting trees. I've gone to volunteer to plant trees. And so that could be something I could talk about when applying this. So why am I choosing to be a woman in STEM? I think conservation is very important. Climate change is very real. And so what have I done to make a difference? I go plant trees, even though it's very, very small. It is something that you can include in your paper. And how have you contributed to your community? This could be volunteer work, or it could be maybe you start a fundraiser and it became a very a vital component of your community's culture. And so this could be you volunteering at church, this could be you volunteering at an organization, or if you want to be a doctor, you're volunteering at the hospital, maybe cleaning, or if you want to be working in social justice, maybe you're volunteering at a food shelter, something like that. How have you contributed to your community? They want to know what you're doing. They want to know why you're doing it and why you think your work is so important and how it's important to other people. How have you made a difference? So that's what you want to talk about when you're writing about this topic. And these are topics related to STEM. Most of them that I've noticed as a biologist, and even for coders, a lot of science, a lot of STEM is focused on conservation and climate change. Climate change right now is the biggest issue in STEM. Every single class I attend, every single professor from mathematics, engineering, biology, genetics always brings back their research. How is this important to conservation? How is this important to helping climate change? So this is very, very popular right now. So maybe doing some research when you're writing a STEM scholarship or any scholarship that's focused on something specific. So if you had to write a paper about an important figure, if you had to write a paper about a STEM paper on engineering, but you're not very comfortable with that concept in engineering, it's good to do your research. Research is always good. It can only help you when writing a scholarship paper. Even when writing these more common, the role model, the woman in STEM, will contribute to your community, it's really good to do your research. And even these, you want to speak to the people in your community, that is research, going out and speaking to them, taking notes on what it is they're saying. You can include quotes, and that's always a very, very nice thing to have in your paper. And so other topics related to STEM, social and environmental justice. And a lot of people don't like to consider social justice as part of STEM, but science is very much influenced by social pressures and political pressures. And a lot of people don't really like to acknowledge that, but it is very important. And especially with climate change and preventing climate change and restoring the habitat and a lot of issues we have in society is due to a lot of racially influenced propaganda that was put out where other communities are being affected more harshly by climate change. So if we can reverse climate change, it is a social justice issue. It's that you want to make sure that these governments are putting policies to protect the people who are most vulnerable to climate change. And that's why social justice and environmental justice go hand in hand. So if you see a paper like that on climate change, you really want to talk about environmental justice and how social justice are related, because that is not commonly spoken about, but it is a very, very real thing that is happening that a lot of people don't like to acknowledge. And if you can make that connection in your paper, that is something very attractive that they want to see. And like I said, any specific topic in STEM, you always want to do your research. If you already have prior knowledge, that's great. You can include that in your paper. And but there's always room for improvement. So do your research, even if you think you already know everything. Just make sure you know you have the fundamentals. If you forgot anything, maybe you learned something new. There's always room for improvement. And I recommend using the max amount of words as possible or close to the maximum. And sometimes they'll say, oh, can you please write a 500-word paper? If you have, they'll always have a minimum too. So if they say their minimum is 300, you want to write maybe 450 and up, but you do not want to go past 500. And the reason I say when you're applying for scholarships, you don't want to go past the word limit is because when you submit your paper on their website, it's going to cut off everything that you typed past 500s. So in my conclusion, I typed, I was putting my thesis as my last sentence, and my thesis went over 500. It's going to cut off my thesis, and I'm going to look like I have an incomplete conclusion, and that's going to look bad on the rest of my paper. So if I started off strong, I'm ending really weak, and so that's going to reflect. So that's why you either want to make sure that you have 500 words, and the way you can do that. Does everyone know how to check your word count on a computer? Or I'll just show it just in case, because I didn't learn this until high school. And I think it's a really, really good tool to know when typing up these scholarships. And I never had a computer till high school, so a lot of these things, and I'm making it super detailed just in case anybody doesn't know. And so I use Google Docs. This is Google Docs because Microsoft is not free. And so when you go to college, Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets is like Excel. It's the same thing as Microsoft. It's the exact same thing. And when they might say you want to send your file as a doc, you go here, download, and then you can save it as whatever file they're asking you to submit it as. And so the way you would check your word count, I like pizza. Did you highlight everything? You go to tools and you go to word count. And it's going to count up all the words for you. And you can also check spelling and grammar. I recommend Grammarly, especially if you're submitting an essay for a scholarship. Grammarly improves, point out any errors that the regular spelling and grammar thing on Google Docs like won't catch. Grammarly catches a lot of other stuff that is really, really great. And so let's go on back to this. All right, and so you always want to make sure that you get close to the maximum. And so if it's asking for 500, you want to aim for 450, 475. If you're finding it difficult to extend your paper and you're a lot closer to the minimum, that's okay too. If you're getting your point across and you feel like it sounds like you, and if it's a story about your life and it was that was a scholarship paper, if you feel like you can say it in the minimum of amount of words and you feel comfortable with that, you feel like it's a strong paper, go ahead and send it in. You want to make it sound like they don't want to feel like they're reading very formulaic paper. They want to see that you have an introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion, but they don't want to read an introduction that sounds very general and is off topic. They don't want to see body paragraphs that are saying, how can I say it? They all kind of look the same. So if I'm starting off, if I'm writing a paragraph, an essay about cats, I start off my introduction with a sentence like, pets are a very important or I'll just say pets are very important to people's lives. They're service animals, there's guard dogs, some work for police stations, and some are emotional support animals, and it helps people's mental health at home. And then I would start off my essay about why cats are very important and what makes them so cool. And then in the paragraphs, I would say, first, the cat is cool because it can jump, comma, it can hiss at you, comma, it has claws. And then in my body paragraphs, it sounds kind of boring. They don't want to hear that. They want to see that this was written by a person. And if that means having varying your sentence length, so maybe I had cats are cool, cats are the best, exclamation point. And then you could even say like, this is what I would do. I would, because I'm a nerd, I would put the scientific name like, I don't know what it is, but I would Google it. And then I put the scientific name, and then I'd be like, has been considered to be domesticated for this many years. However, we can still see that there's still the heart of the wild in them. And something like that. They want to read something interesting. They don't want it to get boring. So maybe varying your sentence length is a really good tip. Using a lot of different types of words. So if you're using words like this is good, this is bad, this is sad, you want to find different words for good. Extraordinary, tremendous, fantastic. For bad, this is morose. We're in a very morose situation. Or this is a catastrophe. They want to see emotion in your paper. Because when you write it the way you speak, there's a rhythm to it and it flows much more easy, and it's going to be a much more easy to read paper. It's going to be enjoyable, and they're going to read your paper and they're going to be like, this was a good paper, and they're going to hand it to whoever else is on the committee, and they're going to be like, you should read this one and put that paper down. And that's how you get a scholarship. And so are there only essay type scholarships? No. You can submit a singing scholarship. There's scholarships if you make a movie, if you play an instrument, if you play drums, if you play guitar, violin, trumpet, piano, if you like DJing, there's scholarships for music. And like I said before, on FastWeb and scholarships.com and niche, you will find raffle type scholarships where all you have to do is click apply and you're in. And then you just wait to see if you won. And then there's photography scholarships where you submit a picture of what you think is important. So if I said, I want you to capture how in one shot, what the COVID pandemic has been like. And maybe in my picture, I had just a picture of a nurse. And you can see how tired she is in her eyes. You can see the indent on her skin of where the goggles were. You can see her mask is already like sweating from how much work they've been doing. Her eyes are bloodshot. You can see that she's been working very hard. You can see the struggle of the pandemic in everybody. And you can see it in this woman's face. She's working hard to save lives. She's trying to pay her bills. She wants to help people. And this pandemic has taken a toll on everybody. And so that would be a good picture that you might want to include if that was a question. If you're submitting a film type scholarship, you want to submit your film, and along with it, you want to include your script when you submit it, just in case there were any audio problems. And same thing with the song. you want to submit the poem you made, because songs are poetry. And same thing with a music. You want to submit the music that you wrote. If this is an original piece, you want to submit everything you wrote for these, along with a short description of what makes it so important. And typically the photography, movies, and the singing or music type scholarships do require short descriptions of what you're sending in and their importance. So if I wrote an original song, they want to know what I'm talking about, why I'm talking about it, and if I included any symbolism. And then same thing for the movie or the music. If I included symbolism in the way I wrote my music or presented my film, I want to describe the symbolism to make sure that when they watch it or listen to it, they can catch it and say like, oh yeah, that was a really good idea. That went really well with the whole concept. So just to make sure that they catch on to the importance of what you sent in and how hard you worked on your film, music, or original piece. And how to write any paper. You want to get as close to the maximum as possible. As I've said before, if it's 500, try to aim for 450, 475. And a good rule to make sure that it doesn't sound redundant or repetitive or just kind of plain, you want to remove the word is. Try not to use it more than 3 times. So if I'm saying, the cat is boring, I don't want to say the cat is boring. I want to say the boring cat lay lazily on the windowsill. Something like that. You want to say the cat is boring and it's just sitting at the window. You don't want to do that. So try to remove the word is as much as possible. And by doing this, you also have the opportunity to learn new words and expand your vocabulary. A good way to do that is to also read. If you don't like reading, you can consider audiobooks, which is you just listen to somebody read it to you. That's another good way that still counts as reading. And yeah, that's a good tip. Try not to use is, always brainstorm. And I put spitball here because when you're writing a paper, for me, I'm not the strongest writer. So when I write a paper, I write everything that comes to mind, even if it sounds really, really horrible. And I'm repeating myself like 10 times because I forgot what I wrote in the last paragraph. I'm going to type it again just so I don't forget in the next paragraph. And the reason you do this is to make sure that you don't forget any ideas, because sometimes you're typing and then you're like, oh, this is really, really good. I'm going to include this in my paper. And sometimes when you don't want to spitball, you're writing your paragraph and then you're like, okay, next paragraph. Man, I forgot what I wanted to write about, what I really needed to include to make this paper the bomb. So always spitball. If you freeze when you're writing a paper, just type whatever. Just like go ahead and like play with your keys until it comes to you. If you're writing with pen and paper, I personally like pen and paper. What you do, my tip, go ahead and spitball like normal, write whatever comes to mind. Don't even worry about spelling or grammar mistakes. If you wrote cuz instead of because, don't even worry about that. You can go back and fix it later. So if you get stuck, just write the same word over and over. So if I was saying, I like the green jacket that I saw at, and then I forgot where I saw it, I'm just gonna write at Ross and continue my paper. And always, 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 always proofread and peer review. Peer review, it means letting other people see your paper. That could be your little sister, your older brother, if you have siblings, your parents, guardians, whoever takes care of you. If you're emancipated, go ahead and email me. I will happily look over your paper. And peer reviewing is always nice. Having more eyes on your paper is wonderful, because when you go through your paper, it makes sense to you. But when somebody else reads it, maybe you had a sentence that was really, really long that you didn't catch. And the other person said, this sentence is way too long. I do not understand what you're saying. This makes no sense. So they're gonna explain, this makes no sense because, and you want to offer constructive criticism if you're peer reviewing somebody else's paper. So that way, when you ask them to peer review yours, they will do the same for you. Uh, and yeah, and a good tip for me, what I do when I ask somebody to peer review my paper is I like to send it to people who are my age, people who are older than me, and I have one person who's younger than me read the paper. And I have one person who's younger than me read the paper to make sure that it makes sense, that everything in the paper is clear and explained. Because if I'm writing a paper on science to an audience who is not well versed in whatever concept I'm talking about, I want to make sure what I'm talking about is making sense to somebody who's never learned this. So if I'm writing a paper on the way the ocean currents move, and I start using like really big words, but I'm not defining what those words are, the person who's reading it is going to be very confused. So if I have somebody who is not well versed in what I'm writing about read my paper, they might say, "Oh, I didn't understand what you meant by erosion." And they're going to be like, "Oh, I just don't know what it means. I think you should define this in your paper." You would make sure to include a sentence defining erosion, and that adds more clarity to your paper. And by having peer review, it also adds more dimension, and you would better have your voice come across in the paper. And when you proofread, if you're a peer reviewer, or you had a good peer review when there's suggestions, not just making edits. Like, I don't mean just crossing out a word and saying nothing else. You want to say why you crossed out a word. You want to offer suggestions like, oh, you use the word back here. Consider using the word, I don't know, unfit, where something like that. And then the thesaurus website on Google. Google is your friend all the time. If you're proofreading, if you don't know another word, you could type on Google a good word for bad, a better word for catastrophe, synonyms for catastrophe, synonyms for bad, synonyms for good, synonyms for sad. And it'll give you a big list, and you'll find which one makes sense, because synonyms don't always have the exact meaning. So that's why you always want to look at the definition also. Other writing tips, you want to be confident when you're writing your paper, because if you're confident, your voice is going to come across. If you're writing a story about your own life, you want to be confident in what you're writing in. If I'm writing about how I've been playing violin for 13 years, I'm going to be like, I'm the best. I love playing violin. It's one of the greatest things. It's my de-stressor. I remember going to perform at Knott's Berry Farms, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. And I'm talking about how it was amazing and why I choose to play violin, why it's so important to me. And I'll be like, music is very important to my family. It has always been incorporated in our like family get-togethers, something like that. You want to talk about what's important to you, and that's going to come across in the paper, and the person who's reading it is going to see that you really cared about what you were writing about. And that always sets you apart from other papers. If they can see that the paper you sent in, you put your heart into it, and that's what's going to set you apart from everybody else. And so I put an example scholarship that these are example scholarships to see if you guys had any ideas on how you might answer this, and just throw out some ideas. And so I'm just going to read them. I'm going to read both of them, and you can choose to participate if you have any ideas on how you might answer either one of these questions. And so the first one is a question that you might be asked that you might need prior knowledge, or you might need to do some research for this paper, or this is a type of question that you might have to think out the box. This is like, you give me your ideas and you just have to write about what you could potentially do. And the other one's more of what's your opinion on this? It's an opinion piece, and you could choose to write maybe a persuasive paper, or just a narrative on why you think we should have universal healthcare. So the first one is, in 100 words or less, describe how you plan to use coding to help stop climate change. And the second is, in 100 words or less, why do you think we should have universal healthcare? And if anybody has any ideas on how you might answer this, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and You can pick whichever one you want to answer. You don't have to do any specific one. So describe how you would plan to use coding or to stop climate change, or why you think we should have universal health care. And universal health care just means that health insurance is not a problem anymore. So if you go to the hospital and you don't have health insurance, you won't get seen, or you'll just get a really, really, really big bill that you might not be afford to pay. So what universal healthcare will do is that everybody can go to the doctor and you will get seen and you will get prescribed medicine. And it makes it so everybody has accessible healthcare anywhere you go. So if you're in California and I only have insurance right now, I only have insurance in California, I could go to Georgia and make sure that when I go to the hospital, I'm covered and somebody's going to take care of me. And so that's what universal healthcare is. Any ideas? Or does anybody know what coding, can somebody tell me why coding is important to them? Or why do you like coding? I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
You guys can unmute yourselves and give your ideas if you have any.
Coding calms me from Akila. I agree. Oh, and if you don't feel comfortable speaking out, you're welcome to go ahead and put it in the chat. But I like coding, like Ms. Freeman said, that it is calming. It's really cool to see that you put in a command and you're going to get a response. And I've gotten the opportunity to use R, and you can get that for free online too. And I think it's really, really cool how you can put in the command and you will see this really big graph pop up of all the data that you're using. And it really puts everything into perspective. All right, so Ms. Brown said, coding reminds me of puzzles, and I like puzzles. That's really important. It helps you with problem solving. And problem solving is a really, really good skill to have in any situation. And so this question, how you plan to use coding to stop climate change, is a real life problem that we have today. Climate change is very, very real and it's impacting everybody. And so coding can help stop climate change through, we can create programs to monitor movement of different animals. We can monitor, sorry, I'm just going to present again. We can create programs for automation that allows us to, we can create more renewable energy by creating these programs for automation and moving to cleaner energy, something like that, or different tools we may be using in the future with habitat restoration, probably. And this is all hypothetical. So there's no wrong answer to this. There's no right answer. So if you had an essay question like this that says, how do you plan on solving any problem? There is never a right or wrong answer. So if you have a question like this for a scholarship, please do not feel discouraged from applying. Maybe just, if you think that it's intimidating, go ahead and put it off and come back to it the next day. And just look at it again and see if anything comes to you. And so, yeah, so if you can always put the scholarship off and just come back to it another day. And maybe in those couple days that you go ahead and look at it, you might have the opportunity to do some research or you learn something new that could answer the question. And for the second one, why do you think we should have universal health care? Do you guys think we should have universal health care? There's no right or wrong to this. You can put yes or no in the chat. It's completely fine. Oh, and creativity. It shows my creativity. That's good. Okay, so yes, we should have universal healthcare. Can you guys say why you think we might need universal healthcare? Or why you think it's important? Like, why do we need insurance? It's okay. So it's fine. Oops. There we go. Okay, so universal healthcare is very important. And so for this one, for this type of scholarship, you could talk about your own experience. Maybe you broke a bone and you didn't have insurance at the time. Like, let's say you broke a bone in like elementary school and your family didn't have insurance at the time that you were injured. And so they got stuck with a bill of maybe $10,000 from the hospital. They were charged for, your stay. They were charged for the equipment that they used. They charged you for the doctor that saw you, the nurse that saw you, and they probably charged you for a bunch of other stuff. Like there was this one guy who got charged, I think $1,000 for a Band-Aid because he went to the hospital and all they gave him was a Band-Aid. Ridiculous. But so that could be a possible question and you would explain why. And so you could bring up a personal story, like if you broke a bone, you could bring up another story that you saw online, like the guy with the Band-Aid. You could talk about another country who already has universal healthcare, like New Zealand. Or actually, I just know New Zealand, but if we Google it, we could find another country. So you could talk about a different country who already has this policy in place and see how it has changed the way they do healthcare. It has changed the doctors, how much they like their job. Maybe they're doing better. Less people are sick. More people are they're not as stressed out as they used to be with regards to healthcare. Maybe by having universal healthcare in this other country, we saw that rates of obesity went down, rates of diabetes went down because healthcare became more accessible and education about taking care of your own body became more accessible to the public. And so you might want to consider talking about that kind of stuff if it's a policy type question like this one. Universal healthcare is a policy that a government would vote on or a bill that you would pass. And so this is something you could consider. For me, what I would do, universal healthcare, when I would go about writing this paper, I would use a personal experience. That's because I have a personal experience. In my sophomore year of college, they thought that I had a tumor. So I went to the hospital to get an MRI. And I went and turns out that I had nothing. And I'm perfectly healthy, which is wonderful. And I'm really grateful to not have a tumor and I had to get surgery. But I finally got the bill back and it was $1,000. And that's because I had insurance. I had insurance and it was $1,000. And at the time, I was unemployed and I was already in debt from student loans. And so it was just stressful. And I could not imagine if I didn't have health insurance. And the reason I had health insurance is because I got a scholarship from the university because they saw that um, they offered it to me. They were like, "Oh, we have a scholarship here, so you can apply for our health insurance if you want it." And so I was like, "Yes, please. I would appreciate it very much." And so it was still very expensive with insurance. And so I would use a personal experience for this one. If you don't have a personal experience, you can always go about doing research in different countries, or you can always, there's no right or wrong way of answering this question. What's important is how you write your paper, making sure that you consider using the maximum, have peer reviewed and proofread to make sure that it sounds good, and make sure that it sounds like you. So that way it sets your paper apart from everybody else. And so I'm just going to move on into a discussion of the first question: how could coding help stop climate change? And I thought this was really, really, really amazing. And this is why I love coding so much. Brad McRae, Viral Shah, Tanmain Mahaptra, and Ranjan Anandaraman created Circuitscape. And Circuitscape is a program that monitors movements of animals across this province in India. And the reason they created this is to, they started noticing that these animals' migration patterns were changing, and how human activity, and usually you'll see this labeled as anthropogenic activity, and that just means people are messing with habitats. And so what they started noticing is that there were changes in migration patterns due to anthropogenic activity. And so they decided to monitor the movement in order to see if there were any other changes to prevent any other changes from happening, because human activity has already drastically affected animal habitats across the world. And so this program allows us to essentially make sure that these animals are not disturbed and we're not ruining their habitats anymore. And if we see that there's any change in migration pattern, like let's say right here, it looks kind of thin. So maybe we see a lot more anthropogenic activity here that's affecting migration pattern. And so we want to create a bridge or restore the habitat in this area so that these animals may interbreed again. And interbreeding is very important to conservation because it boosts genetic diversity. And by boosting genetic diversity, we boost the immune system of the animals so that they're not as vulnerable to different bacteria or viruses. And another fun fact why this program and coding is so important to conservation is because by having this program and monitoring the animal movement with regard to anthropogenic activity, we can see how we're ruining the environment essentially in the habitat of these animals. And if they're coming into contact with humans, and they would be if we're destroying their habitat, they're forced to come into contact. And those animals are also bringing different types of pathogens and different types of viruses. So we've already seen that we have the COVID-19 pandemic. And so in the future, if we these animals are going to come more into contact with humans, we should expect to see another pandemic unless we move to restoration and have more conservation efforts. And so this is a very, very important program, very important example of how coding is important to conservation efforts or reducing climate change and improving habitat restoration for these animals. Prevent a sharp population decline or extinction, what biologists and engineers created was this crab bridge, and the crabs just climb up and go around the freeway so they can safely migrate and breed once they reach the spawning grounds. And so that way we prevent potential extinction, and human activity can carry on, and so can the animals undisturbed. Any final questions? This can be about anything, too, about college, FAFSA, applying to scholarships, applying to grants, financial aid.
No questions, guys, about anything that was discussed? You could type it too if you want.
Yeah, I know it was a very long presentation. They're very detailed, and it can get kind of boring sometimes. This is a very, it can be a stressful topic sometimes, talking about how you're gonna pay for college.
Cool.
Something that was brought up to me by another peer was they had an experience where their guardian would not sign their FAFSA, and so it made them ineligible for financial aid. And so I wanted to bring this up because if this is the case for any of you or any peer who really wants to go to college, you could tell them that they can still go to college. Scholarships don't usually require any guardian authorization. It will get sent to you. It will get sent to your college, and you will be in charge of that money. And like we saw on the FastWeb, there is a lot of money available. And so if you are ineligible for FAFSA or for some reason you can't get it, you can still apply for different grants or scholarships and fund your college that way. And if you still can't, if you didn't get enough scholarships or grants, you can always speak to the financial aid department at your college and tell them your situation, and they can work something out with you.
Awesome. We have a question here.
Yeah, how long should you take to brainstorm on topics? Or how long should you take to brainstorm on topics when applying for scholarships that require essays? So it depends on the deadline. So today is March 27th. Sorry, I'm just checking the calendar. So on the FastWeb website, we saw that there is one due on March 31st. And so if it was due March 31st, I have 5 days. So since today is a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, I would brainstorm. I would spend maybe, for me, I spend 4 hours just brainstorming at the most. Usually it only takes me 30 minutes to know what I really want to write about, just because I've written so many and I'm so used to writing papers by now. But in college, I would take a full 2 to 3 hours doing it. And I really, really struggled at writing papers in high school. I still do, but just because of getting it into practice so much that I've just, and I've seen so many of the same questions asked, you can, you already know what to write about. It becomes like second nature. And for some of the scholarships, you'll see that they ask a lot of the same questions or similar. So you can save your, you can even save your paper for another scholarship and submit that paper for different scholarships. If you think that if it's the description that they're asking, or it was just a really good paper and you know it's going to come in handy later. And then so after brainstorming, what I do is if today was Saturday and I had a week to prepare, the 5 days to prepare, I would spend Saturday just brainstorming for maybe 1 or 2 hours. I would have an outline by the end of that 4th hour. And can you still see my screen? I'm just wondering.
No, you're not.
Oh, okay. So by the 4th hour, I would have an outline, and I consider that outline part of brainstorming because you still don't have like a set paper that you want to write yet. In the outline, you're still like changing where you want to put everything. And so that would be the first day, brainstorming and outline. Second day, I would write up my paper completely, and that would take me maybe 2 hours because I'm a slow typer. But if you're really fast, it shouldn't take you more than an hour. But I'm really, really slow, so I take my time and I still make a lot of errors. But I do spitball in my brainstorm. So if that day I'm feeling really, really good about the paper, I'm just going to type it all in that one day. If it's a paper that requires research, I'm going to brainstorm my ideas. I'm going to type out what I do know already on my outline. If I know that I want to include a certain paragraph about something, and then I would do my research, and I would dedicate a whole day to just research. And for scholarships, I want to show you guys a really, really good website for research, especially for STEM. If you're coding or you're writing a chemistry paper, these are some really, really good websites that a lot of universities like to use. And so I'm sharing my screen now. And so PubMed. So this is a website I use regularly at UCLA when I'm writing research papers, or if you're writing a STEM scholarship. It's called this one, pubmed.gov, and it's also managed by the National Library of Medicine. And it's a search engine just like Google. So if you want to learn about, I don't know, the Pfizer vaccine, you would type it in, and then you would, oh, there's actually no results. I probably spelled it wrong. I don't know, tigers. So they probably don't have enough research papers out right now for the Pfizer vaccine, which is probably why we got no results, or I spelled it wrong. But here we go, tigers. So these are research papers on tigers of the world, genomics and conservation. So this paper is going to be about the genetics of tigers and conservation efforts, or what we're doing to restore habitat, open data that could save more tigers. That's probably just like data tracking tigers. We're probably looking at tiger migration, or how tiger migration has been affected by anthropogenic activity. And so you can see that there's very, very detailed scientific journals, and these are coming from different universities or different scientists around the world. So it's good to do a quick Google search on tigers, and you're going to get taken to like Wikipedia, but Wikipedia isn't always the best source. So I recommend using pubmed.gov, where you can get a lot of very specific information. And so here it is, what it would look like when you clicked on a link. So this is Tigers of the World, Genomics and Conservation, and these are the authors. And so if you ever wanted to cite it, it would cite it for you. If you want to read the full article, it would be right here. And most of these articles are free. You should not have to pay for them. And there is a very interesting email I received that some of these websites do ask you for payment to read the full article. And then a professor said, if you can email the actual authors of the paper, they will happily send it to you for free. And it's very, very true. If you see a paper, all you have to do is message the authors. Hello, I really found your research on tigers of the world, genomics and conservation very, very interesting. I like what you said in your discussion section. I would really appreciate if I could see the full article and or see what else you have to say on this topic. And they'll usually just send you more research papers that they sent you or that they published, and it'll be the full research paper. You would have gotten it for free. You would not have had to pay, and it's really great. And so is Google Scholar, and I'm going to show that to you. I didn't learn this until later into my high school career. I want to make sure you guys also know how to use it. You just go to Google, type in Google Scholar, go ahead and click on the first link. And what this does is it takes you to a similar search engine to pubmed.gov, and you can choose whether or not you want to see articles or you can see case law. And what case law is that you get to see court cases and what the judges or the plaintiffs or defendants were arguing, what was the result of the case and why. And articles, you will get to see different research. Here we have polygyny. Polygyny means polygamy in birds. I was doing a research paper for my last quarter. And as you can see, there's a bunch of scientific papers on this mating behavior in birds. And you would do the same thing like a regular Google search. And that's how I would brainstorm. it's a lot. Sorry. And so, oh, I'm so sorry. So sure. And so yeah, you always want to go ahead and spitball everything. If it requires research, PubMed and Google Scholar are really, really great resources to have. And so by Monday and Tuesday, close to the end, by Monday, I would have it typed up completely. I would have gone to proofread it. By Tuesday, I would have messaged some friends like, hey, can you please read over my paper? It's about this, this, and this. I would send them the prompts so they know what I'm talking about and what I need to include in my paper. So that way they can say, oh, you forgot to talk about this. You didn't, this paragraph isn't very clear. I don't understand where you're going with this point. You don't really explain it that much. And so that would be the peer review portion. And then by the end of my peer review, I would have fixed up everything, have run through it one more time, send it back, see what they say. And then by the time it's due, send it in. And that's if you have like a week to prepare. If you have 3 days, if it's like a 3-day thing, brainstorm, spitball the first day, type it up the second day, have it peer reviewed, submit it on the third day by the deadline. And that's where time management is very important, especially when you're in college. You really want to make sure that you're managing your time well. And if it's a essay that is due the next day, and you have a midterm in 2 days, you kind of have to have your priorities straight and say, oh, maybe my midterm is more important. And I could find another scholarship that maybe gives me an extra day to submit my paper. And that way I can submit top work, you know. Any other questions?
No more questions? I think we're good. All right, that was great information. Annette, thank you so much for presenting today. Like, that was hardcore knowledge right there. You shared a bunch of knowledge, experience that will definitely help our gals when applying for scholarships. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That was crazy. Let's see, we got, yeah, of course. That was awesome. You are welcome to kind of sign off, or you can stay on. I'm just going to go through a PowerPoint really quick, and then I think we're good because we have 20 minutes. So let me share my screen and we'll jump into the PowerPoint. But everybody, thank Annette for all the knowledge that was shared. Let me see.
Thank you.
Thank you so
All right, so I'm just gonna go through a quick PowerPoint. Annette actually covered some of the stuff that I'm gonna talk about, but it's always good to kind of go through it. So first, let's dive into the essay formatting. Usually like standard What is that noise? All right, that's distracting. Essay format, you usually start with Time New Roman font, size 12. That's usually the standard. As Annette pointed out, word and character limit. Hold on. Let me, if you guys can just mute your mic, because I think I'm getting like a something. Okay. Yeah, the structure is usually like intro, and then you go like body, 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 conclusion. And so when you start off your intro, to have a good hook, because the panel is reading a lot of essays, and you want to grab their attention like really fast and keep it. So a good hook is always good. When it comes to like your body, having more smaller paragraphs is better than having a really long paragraph that you can get lost in. So if you start like a new idea, just kind of, start a new paragraph, and the indentions will catch more eyes than just having like a giant paragraph. And then in your conclusion, it's always okay to be short and sweet, just kind of, summarize your goal and the purpose of the prompt. So that's that. And then let's focus on the prompt here. So if you read the prompt, read it really carefully, make sure that you understand what is being asked. And as I mentioned before, choosing a topic that excites you. Annette also covered it. Your essay will be a lot easier and it'll flow better if you enjoy your topic. For essays that need facts, make sure you do your research and cite any sources needed. That's always helpful, and it elongs your essay a little bit if you need more characters. Brainstorm and plan out your essay, and that definitely covered that. And this is usually done for anything, but I decided to mention it. And the last one on this slide is be brief with your thank yous. With scholarship essays, usually you will acknowledge the reader and thank them for reviewing your application, or thank you for your consideration, but just kind of keep it short and brief. That's always good. Okay, the next one, let's talk about persuading your audience. Many scholarship prompts will ask you to describe a personal situation, like talk about a hardship that you overcame, or what's your greatest strength. So in your essay, be honest when you're writing about like life and experiences. When you explain your hardship, be specific and detailed. Make your audience see why the situation was hard, and make them see like how strong you are by overcoming it. That's what they really want to hear from you. You can also use the modes of persuasion, like the ethos, pathos, logos. I don't know if that's still being taught in school, but it was a big thing when I was in school a long time ago. Ethos persuasion uses credibility. Pathos persuasion uses emotions to kind of grab your audience, and logos would be logic. When you cite your stuff, that's like logic. Last one on the slide is sell yourself, but also be humble. So show how much you deserve the scholarship, but don't brag too much. Just show your passion, type of thing. What's my last one? Okay, let's cover some don'ts to do in your essay. So don't include too many inspirational like quotes or famous quotes. The panel doesn't really want to hear, like what a celebrity's opinion is. They want to hear from you. So you can include personal advice that was given to you, but avoid quoting others. Also avoid cliche stories and themes. So like when like people refer to like the Cinderella story or the underdog story, just try to be passionate about what you're saying, and don't use other examples that a lot of people would probably use as well. This one's obvious, but don't use profanities in your essay, and also just avoid abbreviations like IDK or IMO, stuff like that. Just, gotta hit the limit of the characters, so just write it out usually. When choosing an essay topic, don't pick random trending topics. Annette also covered this. If the prompt consists of writing about an environmental issue or a social issue, pick something that you care about. And then lastly, don't put others down in your essay. I guess that goes back to being humble, but that's always good. Okay, that's the last slide I have. Here are some scholarship links, and you can find a lot of other scholarships. They all have like search engines that you can look at. So I was just going to post this in the chat, and maybe we have, I think, some time. I don't know where my clock is right now, but we have some time to kind of look through them. So let me stop sharing and I'll post it in the chat and we can start Googling stuff. Oh, I see stuff in the chat. There we go. So let me see. How do I stop sharing this thing? There we go. All right, so the first one I'm going to share is one that Miss Ebony suggested. So go ahead and look at the chat and you guys can hit, I just hurt myself, hit that link that I just posted and we'll look through it really quick. But really, we only have like 10 minutes. So here's the rest of the links and you guys can start looking for some scholarships that you are interested in applying for. And then ask us any questions that that may come up. We're all here for you. How do I do this? Here, I'll share my screen to show show the first one. Miss Ebony was showing this one. This is a scholarship, I think, centered in Georgia. And they have 3 different ones. So if you guys want to just kind of look through it, here's the initial application. It asks like a bunch of questions. What's this one? This one's a STEM scholarship, and same thing. I mean, this process usually involves like a bunch of questions and typing and answering and thinking. So just take your time looking at them. But let me open up another one. Scholarships. Scholarships.com. I think Annette pointed this one out as well, but you can search for which scholarship you want. You enter all your information and then start looking. So yeah, so have you guys clicked on any of the links? Are you guys looking at them? You can unmute yourself and talk. Here's another one. My Scholarly. Here's another site that you can search for scholarships. I think you have to create a login for this one, but that's normal. Yeah, so that's really all I got, is just kind of showing you guys what links to hit. Do you guys have any questions on anything, literally anything that was discussed today? Where's this? Oh, I see it. When is this due? Oh, look, that's funny. This one's due on the 31st. So you would have 5 days to complete this. Okay.
Oh, hello. I also wanted to mention, for a lot of these websites, you can also, when you create your account, you can put whether or not you want to receive notifications about new scholarships. So if you have an email, you can go ahead and turn those notifications on, and whenever there's a new one, that the website thinks you're eligible for, it'll send it to you and you can go ahead and look over it.
All right. So I guess you guys can look through them right now and maybe even start your application if you find one that you like. Definitely the first URL I posted was from Miss Ebony, and so I think that would be a really good one to start with, and you guys can start filling it out. Is everybody on Discord? So I can post all this information on Discord too, just so you guys have it with you, and then we can probably post the slides as well for reference later on, so you guys can look at it while you're doing it, since this is going to be, it sounds like a process. So cool. All right, guys, I'm going to ask any final questions or comments, and then I think we're good to go. Anybody have a question? Or you could type it. I like reading it too.
So the question is, how much sleep do you get as a college student? My freshman year, I had the luxury that I didn't need to work. My tuition and all my fees were covered by scholarships and financial aid. And so I got as much sleep as I needed. I usually sleep 6 to 7 hours. During my sophomore year, I was working 30 hours a week and doing school full time. I slept every other day. I slept 6 hours, and then there were days I slept 3 hours. And but those are the days that you really need to be on top of it. If you are working during school, you really need to be on top of your things. You need to have a planner, because you're going to be so tired and you're going to forget what you need. You're going to forget due dates. You're going to forget, you're not even going to remember what you ate. You're not going to know what day of the week it is. You're going to be like, oh, it's Friday, and then it's a Tuesday. So it's really, really important to stay organized. And I was working 30 plus hours a week because I was not working work study. I had to find a job, like a regular job. I was working at Burger King. And so if you can find work study, if you have the opportunity to do work study, it's a really great experience, especially if you don't have anything on your resume. And they will make it so that you don't have to work as many hours. And it's really great if you're working, if you're going to school full time. You can do work on the weekends and then dedicate the week to just school, and you can get your 6 to 7 hours of sleep. But I've also had friends who sleep all day and they still get a 4.0, and it amazes me. And so it really depends on you, how well you process information, time management. This past year, I was working also 30 hours a week, going to school full time, but I definitely got better at time management, and I was sleeping 6 hours every night. I never had to pull an all-nighter last year. I only ever pulled maybe 3 all-nighters my freshman year. Never again. Never gonna do that again. It is the worst. If you can refrain from caffeine, please do. if you're good at time management, you will never have to pull an all-nighter. You really won't.
That's funny.
So yeah, sleep is
I
very
remember
important.
my freshman year, we did a lot of all-nighters, and our library was 24 hours. And we're just 2 a.m. at the library with our Red Bulls and coffee and just like not sleeping. But it is only, well, for me, it was also only freshman. And then I was like, I can't do this. I'm going crazy. So that's
Yeah.
funny.
And it's weird when you pull an all-nighter, you think that you're more energized like the second day, but you're really not.
Yeah.
You really start to feel like it's the middle of the day that you're just kind of like, you're on autopilot.
Yeah. I remember I thought I was writing this awesome essay. It was like 3 a.m. and I hadn't slept. And I slept, woke up, read it, and I was like, dude, what was I talking about? I'm like off on a fairyland. So it really wasn't helpful, but it was funny. It was an experience.
Well, sorry, I have one. It just what your experience reminded me of something that's really important when you're writing essays and scholarships. When you're writing a paper for scholarship, or really any paper, do not make sure you're not watching any movie on the side, that you're not listening to a song you really like, because you're going to end up typing the lyrics or whatever the movie person said in your essay. Every time, I always remember what a friend of mine told me, that they were typing up a paper and they were listening or watching Lion King, and they were typing up a sentence. This is important because it's the circle of life. And I could not believe it. It was horrible. But yeah, so you can listen to music, but just make sure that you're not like really into it, you know.
Cool. All right, it's 9 o'clock. Does anybody have any other questions? Any final comments? Did you guys enjoy the workshop? Was it helpful? Yeah, I'll take a nod. Yay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Hope we didn't bore you too much. And if you guys have any questions, you can always reach out on Discord and we'll get the answers for you and everything. So thank you, Annette, again for joining us. That was so helpful. Loved it. And yeah, you guys are good to sign off if you're ready to go. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.